Dr. Keith Rowley's Telling Silence, the Facebook post that exposes old grudges. Former PM's effusive praise for defeated Gonsalves. Perfunctory mention of Victorious Friday reveals transparent bias. Dr. Keith Rowley's recent Facebook post ostensibly congratulating St. Vincent and the Grenadines on its historic election represents one of the most transparently disingenuous displays of diplomatic protocol violation in recent Caribbean political history. Under the guise of gracious statesmanship, the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago has revealed what many have long suspected. His personal and political grudges override basic diplomatic courtesy and democratic principle. The post is extraordinary, not for what it says, but for what it reveals. Rowley devotes 300 plus words of flowery praise to the defeated Ralph Gonsalves, calling him a true legend, celebrating his sterling, remarkable tenure, lauding his vision, resilience, and unwavering devotion, and concluding with biblical language, "Well done, good and faithful servant leader." And the newly elected Prime Minister Dr. Godwin Friday, whose New Democratic Party, NDP, achieved a historic electoral victory. He merits exactly one perfunctory sentence buried near the end. Best wishes to the new leadership of Dr. Friday. Not, congratulations, Prime Minister Friday. Not, I look forward to working with Prime Minister Friday. Not even basic acknowledgement that Friday won a democratic election and represents the will of the Vincentian people. Just best wishes as an afterthought, the diplomatic equivalent of a dismissive hand wave. This stunning breach of protocol and democratic principle demands accountability. Rowley's post reveals a politician so consumed by personal allegiances and grudges that he cannot bring himself to properly acknowledge a democratic transition or extend appropriate congratulations to a legitimately elected leader. 10 reasons Dr. Keith Rowley's post is disingenuous and hypocritical. 1. Violating basic diplomatic protocol. Elementary diplomatic protocol requires that when a new government is elected, foreign leaders congratulate the incoming administration, not eulogize the defeated one. This isn't complicated etiquette, it's diplomacy 101. Every other regional leader managed to get this right. They congratulated Prime Minister-elect Friday, acknowledged the Vincentian people's democratic choice, and expressed commitment to continued partnership. Rowley alone decided that defeated Gonsalves deserved more attention than victorious Friday. This protocol violation isn't accidental, it's deliberate. Rowley knows how diplomatic courtesy works. He simply chose to ignore it because his personal feelings about the NDP override his understanding of appropriate conduct. 2. Disrespecting the democratic will of the Vincentian people. The Vincentian people went to the polls and decisively chose change. They elected the NDP and Dr. Godwin Friday to lead their nation forward. This democratic decision deserves respect and acknowledgement. By devoting his post to praising the defeated candidate while barely mentioning the victor, Rowley essentially dismisses the Vincentian people's choice. His message is clear. Regardless of what Vincentian voters decided, Rowley's personal preference was for Gonsalves to continue. This represents stunning disrespect for democratic principles. When citizens vote for change, regional leaders should respect that choice, not mourn it publicly while grudgingly acknowledging the new leadership as an afterthought. 3. The best wishes insult. The specific language Rowley uses for Friday is revealing. Best wishes to the new leadership of Dr. Friday. Not, congratulations, Prime Minister Friday. Not, I look forward to productive relations with your administration. Not, Trinidad and Tobago stands ready to partner with your government. just best wishes. The phrase you use for someone's birthday, not for someone who just won national leadership. Compare this tepid, impersonal language to the effusive praise lavished on Gonsalves, true legend, sterling remarkable tenure, pillar of SVG, transformational changes, steadfast champion, good and faithful servant leader. The contrast couldn't be more stark or more insulting. Rowley's language clearly communicates that Friday's victory is something to be tolerated, not celebrated. An inconvenient democratic result that requires bare minimum acknowledgement before returning to what really matters. Praising Gonsalves. 4. The transparent NDP grudge. Rowley's post confirms what many have long suspected. He harbors a deep grudge against the NDP. This grudge likely stems from the NDP's criticism of P&M policies, their different approach to regional issues, or simple political tribalism, the P&M identifying with Gonsalves' ULP while viewing the NDP as political opponents by proxy. Whatever the source, this grudge has no place in diplomatic relations between sovereign nations. Trinidad and Tobago's relationship with St. Vincent and the Grenadines shouldn't depend on which party wins elections or whether that party aligns with Rowley's personal preferences. By allowing his grudge to dictate his public response to a democratic election, Rowley demonstrates that he values personal political allegiances over national diplomatic interests. 5. The Brother by Volcano cringe. Rowley signs his post, Your Brother by Volcano, a reference to the geographic connection between Trinidad and St. Vincent. But this signing is addressed to Gonsalves, not to the Vincentian people or their new Prime Minister. This personalization transforms what should be a formal diplomatic statement into a personal letter to a defeated political ally. It reinforces that Rowley views his relationship as being with Gonsalves personally, not with St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a sovereign nation. True statesmanship requires recognizing that diplomatic relationships transcend individual leaders. Countries maintain relationships with other countries, not just with politically aligned prime ministers. Rowley's Brother by Volcano signing reveals he never understood this distinction. 6. Undermining regional democratic norms. Caribbean regional relationships depend on respecting democratic processes and transitions. When leaders openly favor defeated candidates over victorious ones, they undermine these essential democratic norms. Imagine if other regional leaders followed Rowley's example, congratulating defeated politicians they personally liked while grudgingly acknowledging elected ones they didn't prefer. Regional cooperation would collapse into partisan political camps with diplomatic recognition dependent on ideological alignment rather than democratic legitimacy. Rowley's post sets a dangerous precedent that democratic victories don't automatically merit congratulations. Personal political preferences matter more. This corrodes the democratic foundations of Caribbean regional cooperation. 7. The hypocrisy of praising democracy while disrespecting democratic results. Rowley's post claims Gonsalves was a defender of democracy whose legacy will continue to shape the future of our region. Yet the post itself demonstrates disrespect for democracy by prioritizing the defeated candidate over the democratically elected one. You cannot simultaneously claim to champion democracy while refusing to properly acknowledge democratic transitions. You cannot praise someone as a defender of democracy while implicitly questioning the legitimacy or importance of the democratic process that removed him from office. This hypocrisy reveals that Rowley's commitment to democracy is conditional. He supports it when it produces results he likes and grudgingly tolerates it when it doesn't. 8. The HDC apartments context makes it worse. Rowley's effusive praise for Gonsalves gains additional ugly significance given recent revelations about the Gonsalves family acquiring 3 luxury HDC apartments in Trinidad during the PNM administration, including one rushed through 2 days after the 2025 general election, when no government was constitutionally in place. These revelations raise questions about whether the PNM government provided preferential treatment to a regional ally's family. Rowley's post, written after these allegations emerged, reads less like diplomatic courtesy and more like continued loyalty to someone who may have benefited from PNM favoritism. The timing is particularly revealing. Rather than maintaining diplomatic distance while investigations proceed, Rowley doubles down on his public support for Gonsalves. This suggests the relationship may be more about mutual benefit than principled regional cooperation. 9. The big boots to fill condescension. Rowley concludes his perfunctory mention of Friday by stating, "Ralph has left some very big boots to fill. Wear them well." This language is extraordinarily condescending. Rowley isn't congratulating Friday on his victory or expressing confidence in his leadership. He's framing Friday's tenure as an attempt to measure up to Gonsalves' supposedly unmatched legacy. The message is clear. Friday won the election. But in Rowley's view, he'll always be in Gonsalves' shadow, struggling to fill boots too big for him. This backhanded best wishes insults Friday while again centering Gonsalves as the real leader deserving of respect. True diplomatic courtesy would have congratulated Friday on his own merits, not framed his leadership as an inevitable disappointment compared to his predecessor. 10. Representing Trinidad and Tobago versus personal political allegiances. Perhaps most fundamentally, Rowley's post reveals confusion about who he represents. He writes, "On behalf of my family and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, whom I have had the honor to represent and to lead." But Rowley isn't representing Trinidad and Tobago's interest in this post. He's representing his personal political preferences. The people of Trinidad and Tobago have no stake in which party wins St. Vincent's elections. Their interest lies in maintaining productive diplomatic and economic relationships with St. Vincent, regardless of who governs. By prioritizing personal allegiance to Gonsalves over appropriate acknowledgement of Friday, Rowley subordinates national diplomatic interests to personal political tribalism. This represents a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to represent a nation in international relations. What Rowley should have written. An appropriate post would have congratulated Prime Minister-elect Friday on his historic victory, acknowledged the Vincentian people's democratic choice, expressed confidence in continued strong Trinidad, St. Vincent relations, thanked Gonsalves for his service as a separate secondary element, committed to productive partnership with the new administration, used appropriate diplomatic language throughout. Instead, Rowley wrote what amounts to a personal eulogy for a defeated political ally with Friday mentioned only as an afterthought requiring bare minimum acknowledgement. In conclusion, personal grudges over diplomatic principle. Dr. Keith Rowley's Facebook post congratulating St. Vincent and the Grenadines on its election represents a masterclass in how not to conduct diplomatic relations. By lavishing praise on the defeated Ralph Gonsalves while offering perfunctory best wishes to victorious Dr. Godwin Friday, Rowley has exposed personal grudges, political tribalism, and fundamental misunderstanding of diplomatic protocol. The post message is unmistakable. Rowley's personal preference for Gonsalves matters more than democratic results, diplomatic courtesy, or Trinidad and Tobago's national interests. His transparent NDP grudge overrides basic respect for Vincentian voters' democratic choice. This isn't statesmanship, it's petty political tribalism dressed in diplomatic language. It's personal allegiance masquerading as regional solidarity. It's a grudge so deep that it prevents even basic acknowledgement of a legitimately elected leader. The Vincentian people chose Dr. Godwin Friday to lead their nation. That choice deserves respect, congratulations, and commitment to productive partnership, not grudging acknowledgement buried beneath 300 words praising the candidate they rejected. Dr. Rowley's post reveals what many suspected. His regional relationships are personal and political, not professional and diplomatic. He relates to preferred politicians, not to sovereign nations. And when democratic processes produce results he dislikes, he cannot bring himself to extend appropriate courtesies to the victors. This petty, transparent display of personal grudges and political tribalism diminishes Rowley's legacy and damages Trinidad and Tobago's regional standing. Regional leaders should respect democratic choices and maintain professional relationships regardless of electoral outcomes. Instead, Rowley offers effusive praise for his defeated ally and dismissive best wishes for the democratically elected Prime Minister. The contrast reveals everything about Rowley's priorities, and none of it reflects well on his understanding of diplomacy, democracy, or statesmanship. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has a new Prime Minister. Dr. Godwin Friday won a democratic election and represents his people's choice for leadership. He deserves congratulations, respect, and commitment to partnership, not condescending speculation about whether he can fill his predecessor's big boots. Dr. Rowley's inability to provide even this basic courtesy exposes grudges that have no place in regional diplomacy. Personal political preferences shouldn't determine diplomatic responses to democratic transitions. But for Keith Rowley, apparently they do. And that tells us everything we need to know about his approach to regional leadership and why Trinidad and Tobago's regional influence declined during his tenure. Congratulations, Prime Minister Friday. You won a historic democratic victory. You deserve better than Keith Rowley's grudging afterthought. The Vincentian people chose you, and their choice deserves respect, regardless of one embittered former Prime Minister's personal preferences.